do you imagine the FBI is actually doing here, and how are they liaising with Facebook?
Well, probably one of the first things they're doing is leveraging some of the pre-established relationships that they had at Facebook. This would involve partnering in a way with Facebook or outside investigators or outside law firms that they brought in an effort to try to preserve the evidence. One of the main reasons for bringing in law enforcement or working with the FBI in a matter like this is to try to preserve perishable evidence that may be on servers domestically or internationally.
Now, Sarah, what makes this different from the Cambridge Analytica scandal is in Cambridge Analytica, they were using publicly available information generally and information that Facebook users, whether they really understood what they were consenting to, had consented to be used. But here you have an actual attack on Facebook accounts, at which point these hackers had access to everything in your private profile. Why aren't we hearing the same level of outrage, Sarah?
Well, there was a sort of a tangible misstep in the Cambridge Analytica situation, which is that humans decided it was totally fine for this developer to get all this profile information from all of Facebook's users. Facebook basically said, sure, take information on these people and on their friends, and once you have it, we trust you that you won't do anything bad with it. And of course, that developer passed it along to Cambridge Analytica, which then helped Donald Trump get elected in the 2016 election. So there's that political intrigue there too. In this case, the actual information that was breached, it's much worse. This is not just public information. This is private information. This is your private posts. This is the ability to post on your behalf. This is the ability to log into every other app that has a Facebook login connection. So it's much more serious.
Mark, how serious would you say this breach is?
Very significant. As we heard earlier, this was by far Facebook's largest data breach. But in the scale of data breaches of all time, it's very large. And the reason is, you mentioned earlier, it is a hack. Unlike so many large data breaches in the past where people are social engineered out of their credentials or other phishing attacks that may take advantage of duping them into providing their password. This is an attack that seems to be a true hack. As we heard this morning, a vulnerability was, or multiple vulnerabilities were taken advantage of by the attacker to then surreptitiously take advantage of these people's accounts. So it's significant, and it takes a sophisticated attacker to pull off something, having intimate knowledge of Facebook's application.
Now, Facebook says we may never know who's behind this, but what is your suspicion? Is this a nation state? Is this some criminal organization? And how are the consequences different depending on who actually perpetrated this attack?
Right. I think based on the number of users involved here and the type of attack that we heard, I think all investigators need to look at all options. That means certainly the criminal element. Hacktivists could be associated with this, and also nation states. And don't forget insiders as well. This someone had very intimate knowledge of this. So, but if you think about the amount of data that was available, think back to the Yahoo hack and other large-scale data breaches like this. It's quite a wealth of information. So you have to look at the motive, or think about what motive would someone have. Someone can't take 50 million. Personal information of 50 million users and just go and sell it on the dark web today. There has to be a much more ulterior motive.
What do you imagine that motive could be?
Well, certainly espionage is at the top of my list. If you look at the types of groups that would benefit from such information, as we saw in the Yahoo attack, and now that's public, that it was attributed to Russian intelligence officers that were using it for targeting individuals, both government officials and executives in the private sector. Certainly there's a wealth of information on Facebook from 50 million users that could be used for espionage purposes.
All right.
Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg were also targeted in this hack, so that's something to note.